On Friday nights, the bowling alley glowed like a small constellation at the edge of town, a warm place where the week finally exhaled. Shoes squeaked softly, pins chimed like tiny bells, and neon signs hummed us into the weekend. Tonight, we're drifting back to that gentle rhythm, the clatter of strikes, the flicker of scoreboards, and the feeling that everyone belonged to the same easy story. Before we begin, where in the world are you watching from? I'd love to know. Share your city or country in the comments and settle in. You see it first from the road, a soft rectangle of light hovering at the edge of town as if someone set a lantern down for the whole week to find its way home. The parking lot gravel crunches under slow tyres, and the glow from the big windows draws a pale path across the asphalt. Friday has finally loosened its grip on your shoulders. You take a breath and the air smells faintly of rain on dust, fried onions from somewhere nearby, and that clean, chemical promise of floor polish and shoe spray that waits inside. The door is heavier than you remembered, and it gives with a rubbery sigh. Warmth rolls over you, heat from the kitchen, the dry whisper of air conditioning, the soft press of bodies gathered in a place with only one plan: a good night. The carpet is patterned in shapes that pretend to be stars and comets, an entire galaxy under your feet. Farther down, the lanes shine like rivers poured from amber glass, perfectly smooth except for the fine lines that catch the light. You can feel the hush of the place, the low thrum of a pop song from 10 years ago, the clink of ice in a paper cup, the quiet mechanical pulse of ball returns exhaling every few seconds, like the building itself is breathing. A shoe rack waits like a library of borrowed adventures. Sizes are marked in faded numbers. The laces look newer than the leather, like hope stitched to experience. The attendant asks your size without really needing the answer, because they've been here long enough to know the difference between feet and confidence. The disinfectant spritz rises crisp in the air, and the shoes land in your hands with the soft weight of a familiar ritual. You sit on a bench that's been smoothed by hundreds of small Fridays, untie your day and lace up your night. With each knot, the week seems to slip farther away. Emails, traffic, the morning news, shrinking until they're just tiny specks hovering in the neon. Somewhere by the front desk, there's a bulletin board with curling flyers. Charity tournament next month. Wednesdays half price. Congratulations Carol, 300 game. A row of team photos grins back in glossy relief. Shirts that don't match. Hands on shoulders, someone always caught mid-laugh. You drift past the arcade, where a pinball machine blinks politely as if to say, later maybe. The crane game holds a sleepy flock of stuffed animals, their stitched eyes reflecting the ultraviolet glow like stars with thoughts of their own. Your lane number pops onto the screen, bright and sure as your name will soon be. The screensaver cycles through animations that are both too loud and somehow perfect. Cartoon pins exploding, fireworks in low resolution. Your ball is waiting somewhere along the racks, a tangle of colours and fingerprints, the quiet story of hands before yours. You try one, then another, listening to the private conversation between weight and wrist. This one pulls your arm toward the floor. That one floats a little too high. The right ball doesn't announce itself. It settles in your palm like a memory returning. Your fingers slip into the holes and find a gentle fit. Not tight, not loose, just enough to make you feel anchored. Far down the lanes, someone laughs at a near miss. 2 pins wobble, decide against falling, and the awe rises from friends who are not disappointed so much as delighted by the suspense. The snack bar bell dings, and a basket of fries slides forward on a tray that has carried more happiness than anyone ever thought a tray could hold. The person behind the counter knows most names and all the usuals. They move like they have a rhythm to keep, a hidden beat only the kitchen hears. Salt feed, flip, pour, ring. They'll ask you later if you need extra napkins, but you'll already have some because this place believes in the small kindness of spares. You take your turn with the slow ceremony the first frame deserves, a step, another, heel toe, like dancing with something you trust. The lane stretches out, a slim shining runway leading to 10 polite white listeners. You breathe in the fragrance of wax and wood and something sweet you can't place, and you let the ball swing low, back, forward. The release makes a sound you can feel through your bones, a rolling hush that sits exactly where the week's chatter used to be. It glides, confident and unhurried, and tiny reflections race alongside it as if the floor has its own moonlight. Pins don't just fall, they confess, they relent, they scatter like quiet applause. Even a simple spare sounds like a story landing on its feet. You turn back and the people in your lane, friends, family, maybe 2 new faces, are smiling in that soft, approving way that says the evening just clicked into place. One of them reaches to bump your shoulder, and you understand that the scoring doesn't matter yet, and won't matter much later either. The screen chirps as it adds numbers beside your name, and you feel unexpectedly seen by a blinking cursor. Between frames, the world narrows to small comforts, the weight of the ball warming under your hand, condensation threading down the cup, making a ring that will dry into a ghost map of the night. The distant squeak of rental shoes sketching invisible signatures across the oiled floor. Someone explains a new technique in a whisper, like passing along a family recipe. Line your shoulder with the arrow, swing easy, keep your wrist straight. Another person tells a joke that wouldn't be funny anywhere else but is perfect here, and laughter blooms down the lanes in staggered little waves. Every so often, cosmic bowling takes a quiet breath in the corner. The lights dim, a black light wakes up the lint on your sleeve, and the outline of your hands glows as if you've just returned from touching the moon. Neon arrows reveal themselves on the approach like secret guidance, and even the soda straws look celestial. Music nudges a little louder, and for a moment the entire place becomes a planet with an easy orbit, round and round, frame by frame, the night turning without hurry. You notice the seasons from the coat rack. Winter brings wool and heavy zippers that sigh when they're undone. Spring hangs light jackets by one loop. Summer hardly bothers to pause there at all. Autumn arrives with the smell of rain and the soft clatter of umbrellas learning to lean. On every season's first Friday, the alley feels like a holiday you didn't have to plan. Someone always walks in with a birthday balloon the colour of a cheerful secret. Someone else wears a shirt that insists they are the pin whisperer, and no one disagrees. There is a small ceremony to leaving your seat for your turn and returning to it after. People shuffle to make space. Cups float from hand to hand. A napkin appears and disappears. High fives are gentle when the roll is a miss and enthusiastic when it isn't. If a ball drifts into the gutter, it's treated like a shy guest, not a mistake. Next one, someone says, as if time here is generous and elastic and can spare as many nexts as you need. At the periphery, the pro shop light is on, illuminating rows of polished spheres like a candy display for grown-ups. A man adjusts grips while telling a story about the best game he ever bowled. The story changes a little every week, the way all good stories do. A child kneels by the ball return, feeling the warm breath of the machine and waiting for the satisfying thunk that means another chance. A couple further down the lanes leans into the glow, shoulders bumping companionably as they compare forms they're not really watching. The alley has its own weather system. The back doors breathe cool air, the kitchen radiates a friendly heat. Across the lanes, a draft slips under the emergency exit and plays faintly with the corners of the scoring sheets. Somewhere behind you, a dryer tumbles towels with a steady heartbeat. You realise, without needing to think about it, that you could close your eyes and know exactly where you are from the sounds alone. The roll, the scatter, the polite cough of pins standing stubborn, the cheerful clatter of a strike that feels like a tiny parade for your ears. Time here doesn't stop, it loosens. Minutes pour out in smooth lengths like oil from a can. No stick, no snag. You check your phone once and put it face down, satisfied that nothing urgent can compete with the next turn. The ceiling tiles silently count your breaths. Overhead, a battered ceiling fan turns like a clock that forgot about numbers and decided to keep time by kindness. When your name blinks again, you rise without thinking. Your hands rub against each other, a small ritual to gather luck. You choose the same ball because superstition is really just the shape comfort takes when it means well. You step forward, the floor receiving your weight with the patient give of a well-told story. The ball rolls, the pins speak, and for a soft, shining moment, everything necessary fits into the distance between your fingers and the headpin. If you listen closely as you walk back, you can hear a dozen evenings layered on top of this one. Older laughter, familiar footsteps, a chorus of Friday nights humming along the rafters. The alley keeps them all the way, a seashell keeps the ocean, so that each time you come back and press your ear to the room you can hear it. The easy tide of belonging, rolling in and out, bringing you ashore again, right where you meant to be. They hand you the shoes like a small ceremony, palms up, smile soft, a practice slide of rubber soles across the counter. The numbers stamped on the backs are chipped and honest. The leather shows 100 weekends of living, and the laces feel like fresh start string. You lift them and they have that particular weight. Not heavy, not light, significant. A borrowed pair of wings with a checkout time. Somewhere deep in your muscles, childhood remembers this ritual. Sit, unlace the day, trade street for lane. Your everyday shoes, still warm from your steps, thud softly against the floor and rest with their mouths open, relieved to be off duty. You slip your socks into the twilight of the rentals and feel the whisper of fabric against insole. The little ridge at the heel that says, "We've been around and we know how to help you balance." The disinfectant scent is oddly comforting, sharp, yes, but gentle at the edges, like a clean page. You pull the first lace through the first eyelet and time slows down to the hush of cotton sliding on cotton. Crisscross, loop, pull, crisscross, loop, pull. This is the metronome of Friday night. The bow lands neat and patient on the tongue, and your foot transforms. The sole glides when you stand, the heel kisses the floor with a shy squeak. You roll your ankle just to test the hinge of readiness. Do the same with the other foot, laces whispering, not flattening into place. And then you're standing in two pieces of borrowed confidence. There's a little magic in their mismatched charm. Red and blue, panels faded towards truce, stitching that holds like a good promise, a scuff that looks like it once met a perfect strike and decided to keep the memory. The leather creases carry a map of people you will never meet and somehow know anyway. The person who double-knotted out of habit, the teen who left glitter behind after cosmic bowling, the quiet grandmother who bowled a 192 and told no one. You can almost feel them when you wiggle your toes, the legacy of 100 careful approaches, 1,000 new starts. The first steps are laboratory steps. You learn the floor again, your feet tracing tiny circles to find the centre. Slide forward, grip back, the sole deciding how much to share and how much to keep. The left shoe, suddenly a professor, teaches you about friction and forgiveness. The right shoe suggests boldness in a voice that makes you laugh. They squeak to each other when you turn as them. A small, excited conversation that says, "We're ready when you are." You glance around. Others are unlacing themselves into their nighttime selves too. A dad jokes about needing performance laces. A teenager tests the squeak like it's an instrument. A couple ties each other's bows as if sealing a pact. A woman in a league shirt reties her knots with the focus of an archer, nodding once when the tension is finally right. there's a sweet democracy in it. CEOs, students, night shift nurses, first dates, regulars, everyone lowered to the same bench, performing the same quiet spell. Rental shoes make a team out of strangers before the first frame is even born. You stand and the floor becomes a rumour of ice and butter at the same time. The approach invites you with its pale guardrails of tape and arrows, its polished hush. Each practice step is a rehearsal for being lighter than you were 10 minutes ago. Heel, toe, glide. Heel, toe, glide. The shoes know how to turn your hesitation into momentum. You can feel them absorbing your weak static and giving it back as something useful. Direction, balance, a surprise steadiness you didn't pack with you. And that's when the secret superpower arrives. Not loud, not flashy, it slides into your posture. Your shoulders settle back as if a gentle hand touched them. Your chin tips a degree braver. These shoes, with all their scuffs and stories, say, you don't have to be great, you just have to be here. And then, because they're kind, they add, but you might be great anyway, who knows? You test a gentle slide toward the foul line and feel the soul give at the exact moment you need it, the break at your heel catching like a promise kept. You imagine the little components, stitches, glues, layers of material, working as a chorus to protect your ankles and encourage your swagger. If a superhero's suit is mostly symbol, these are distilled encouragement, 2 permission slips tied at your feet. The attendant, an expert in the science of small upgrades, asks if you're good with the size. You flex, bounce once, grin. Perfect, you say and mean it. They've watched this transformation thousands of times, the way people grow an inch taller and 3 degrees freer as soon as their feet accept the new rules of glide and pause. They give you a knowing nod, the kind reserved for co-conspirators, and turn to help the next pair of feet become a little braver. You look down at the colour panels and think about luck. Maybe you always bowl better in blue. Maybe the red side carries your mischief. Maybe the crease near the toe is a compass, always pointing you toward the head pin, even when your mind drifts to the snack bar's curly fries. You tell yourself you'll line the lace knot exactly in the centre every time, because surely that helps. You tap the toe twice on the wood before each roll, because maybe the lane listens. This is how rituals are born, quietly out of comfort's logic. Near you, someone's knot slips loose and they tie a double bow, tongues out, laughing. Another person does the meticulous tuck, loop ends hidden, lace tips sharp like they're preparing for a photo. A kid lifts his foot and examines the logo as if it were a badge he just earned. A league player pulls out a tiny brush and dusts the sole, polishing the glide like a violinist tuning before a concert. The room is a village of shoe stories, all pointing toward the same 10 pins. When you finally step onto the approach for your first real throw, the shoes and the lane negotiate on your behalf. You move the way you meant to move before you knew you could. The slide hums at the right moment. The stop arrives without jolt. Your arm swings in a neat pendulum, guided less by effort than by punctuation. Comma back, sentence forward, period release. The ball goes, and you feel the truth of it in your soles first, then your knees, then your chest. Whether you hear a strike, a spare, or a polite scatter, your shoes accept your small celebration without judgment, squeaking once like applause you can stand in. Between turns, they make you nimble. You weave around the ball, return, pivot to greet a friend, lean to share a joke. They grip when you need to plant, slide when you need to smooth. They turn high fives into choreography. One step, pivot, gliding return. With every frame you trust them more, and the trust spills outward. You aim a little braver. You laugh a little sooner. You forgive a gutter ball with the same grace you give yourself for forgetting milk or replies or laundry. The shoes whisper, "We'll get the next one." At the snack bar, they stand with you in a line that smells like salt and cinnamon. Their toes point toward menus written in the language of comfort. Your weight shifts from foot to foot and the soles translate impatience into rocking calm. Back at the lane, they wait beside your bench like patient hounds while you sip a soda with a paper straw that bends where it's supposed to. When the screen chirps your name, you step back into them and they remember everything. Your gait, your little sideways start, the exact distance your heel prefers from the foul line. There's a moment 3 or 4 frames in when you look down and recognize what's changed. Not the shoes, really. You. The laces turned the dial down on the world, and you became the version of yourself who enjoys trying. The one who finds rhythm instead of pressure, who likes the shape of effort even when the pins stay standing. The one who can miss, smile, adjust a toe's angle, and feel the tiny thrill of learning. The best part is how the magic doesn't ask for attention, it just works. The shoes don't brag when you thread a pocket shot. They don't sulk when your wrist wobbles. They partner. They turn small corrections into discoveries. A slightly longer slide adds accuracy. A firmer plant grants power. A deeper breath before release makes room for luck to find you. They teach you to listen with your feet, to the oil patterns you can't see, to the invisible breeze that lives at lane level, to the way would and will make friends in the moment before the throw. By the time the 10th frame rolls around, you can read your own story in the scuffs you've added. One bright smudge from a daring slide, a new crease from a hop you didn't realize you did. You loosen the knots slowly, the way you end a conversation you want to remember word for word. The laces unwind, and the bows fall into puddles of string. Your socks are warm, your feet feel practiced and kinder toward the ground. You return the shoes and they clack softly against each other, ready for the next pair of feet that needs a little courage. The attendant lifts them with a nod that says, "Nicely done, no matter what your scorecard claims." You step back into your everyday shoes and discover they've learned something in the meantime. Your walk carries a hint of glide now, a suggestion of Friday calm in the arch. Maybe that's the real secret superpower. Not strikes or spares, though those are sweet, but the spell of borrowing confidence, then bringing some of it home with you. The rental shoes stay behind, but the rhythm follows you out into the cool night, where the parking lot hums and the air smells like relief. Your steps make a friendly music on the pavement, and just for a second, under the wide ordinary sky, you feel taller than your height and lighter than your week, sure-footed in a way that doesn't require proof. The cursor blinks like a small lighthouse, patient and rhythmic, holding the lane open for whoever you'll become tonight. You lean over the console. The plastic keys are a little springy, a little sticky from 100 sodas ago, and your fingertips hover in that delicious pause before a story begins. Your name is an option. Your nickname is a dare. The screen hums with its own encouragement, soft blue against dark like a quiet stage waiting for the first spotlight. Someone says, "Type me in as Lefty Lightning," and the room nods as if this is perfectly normal, because on Friday nights it is. This is where alter egos are issued with the same matter-of-fact generosity as shoe sizes. You could be Mara, but you could also be Pin Whisperer, or Cosmic Cat, or Uncle Turkey, names that sound like found objects, scuffed and perfect. The letters pop onto the screen one by one, little tiles of identity arranging themselves on a shelf. Every beep is a heartbeat, and every name is a small mask that somehow makes you more yourself. There's always a debate about length. The console suggests 10 characters like it's a gentle librarian. Be brief, be bright. Someone inevitably tries to cram in a full sentence, the one who will definitely get a strike this time, and watches it get trimmed down to a charming stump, the one weebuj. Laughter loosens everything. The cursor blinks again, flirting with the next line. It's your turn. You could go classic, first name, last initial, safe as a vanilla cone, or you could pick the name that has been hovering in your ribs since the drive over, the one that feels like a shrug and a grin, Moonshot. You type MOONSHOT, feeling each letter land like a soft step onto a familiar porch. The screen makes space for everyone. Grandma Thunder gets her row, grinning at the way her grandkids cheer just reading it. Quiet Nate requests Quieter Nate and looks pleased at the paradox. A new friend you've only just met, kind eyes, careful laugh. Chooses Spare Bear and immediately becomes easier to know. Names that don't quite fit in other rooms are welcomed here without questions. If someone spells theirs wrong in the hurry of excitement, well, that's the version they'll be for the night. Janae bowls with surprising grace. Jaim turns out to be the most generous high-fiver on the team. Typos become folklore. Older alleys still have score sheets somewhere behind the counter, paper grids with pencil-smooth corners, ready for the occasional retro night, if you've ever filled those out. You remember the slowdown, the way your hand learned to count pins, the way a baker counts minutes. But tonight the screen is in charge and it's happy to be. It offers little cartoons that have aged like beloved stickers, a bowling ball wearing sunglasses, a pin with a tiny cape, fireworks in 8-bit bursts for anyone who knocks them all down. Even their outdated cheerfulness is comforting, like a public service announcement from a kinder decade. A small etiquette blooms around the keyboard. People slide aside so each new person can step up and become someone. Names are selected democratically, with laughter as the tiebreaker. There is a hush for the moment someone uncertain tries to choose, the group leaning in just enough. What about Starboard Steve? Maybe Late Bloomer? Ooh, the librarian. And we'll shush the pins when they fall. It's not about performance. It's about invitation. The right name feels like being handed a mug with your hands already warm to the shape of it. The screen arranges you in its quiet architecture. Frame numbers marching across the top. Each player's row a carpet unfurling into the dark. Your names anchor the left edge, so the evening knows where to begin. You watch them sit together. Moonshot, Spare Bear, Grandma Thunder, Lefty Lightning, and the combination is a chord no one has heard before. It sounds like possibility. You imagine how it will look later, when the boxes fill with strikes and spares, with tiny mathematical stories of courage and luck. For now, they are empty rooms with the lights on, waiting for company. Some traditions are non-negotiable. The person who enters the names gets to choose the order, unless there is a rookie, and then the rookie often goes second, cushioned between two friendly veterans who will clap at anything. There's a superstition that first position has the widest shoulders, that fourth is the closer, that third is the secret engine. None of it matters, and all of it matters, the way seat selection matters at a movie theatre. You'll watch the same film, but you want your view to line up with your nerves. It's absurd how much joy a blinking cursor can hold. In everyday life, a cursor means deadlines, unanswered messages, the list you keep promising to make. Here, it's just a promise in miniature. When you're ready, your turn will arrive. This little rectangle marks the present the way a friendly finger marks your place in a book. It doesn't hurry you, it doesn't scold, it waits at the end of your name like a tail wagging. When the first frame begins, the names do their other job. They announce you to the room in a low voice. It's easy to be Mara and feel self-conscious about the approach. It's easier to be Moonshot and tilt a degree more adventurous. The name on the screen grants permission, not to be louder necessarily, but to be bolder in the right ways. Grandma Thunder lifts her chin and lets the ball fly with a wicked hook. The table erupts. Spare Bear, faced with a 7-10 split, bows to the pins as if they are honoured guests and sends the ball on a diplomatic mission. It works. Of course it works. Between frames you keep glancing at the scoreboard as if it's a campfire. The warmth of it is half light and half attention. Numbers bloom in the boxes, 9/X, and your row becomes a sentence, a paragraph, a plot with cliffhangers. There's a grammar to it you can feel even if you never liked math. the way a spare invites its neighbour into the conversation, the way a strike reaches forward to shake the next two hands. Your name, suddenly, is a protagonist, and the machines keep score with a kind of understated kindness, doing the arithmetic so you can inhabit the story. There is comedic theatre in the animations. A cartoon pin faints dramatically when it is the last one standing. A bowling ball appears with a crown after a turkey, ruling benevolently from its pixelated throne. Children squeal, adults do their dignified chuckle, and the teens pretend not to care while caring very much. When the screen hiccups, freezing for an extra beat before revealing the tally, the entire table leans in, suspended, a community of breath held together by a cheap miracle. Sometimes the names change midstream. Someone who started the night as Dave becomes the comeback after a slow start turns into a parade of marks. Late bloomer upgrades to bloomed, ceremonially entered by the group with too many beeps and laughter that tries not to draw attention and fails. The console allows edits like a forgiving editor, and no one objects. Reinvention is part of the ticket price. You can be the version of yourself that the next frame deserves. There's a private intimacy in seeing other people's names move across a shared scoreboard. You learn their rhythms, who steps up before the animation has even finished, who waits politely for the screen to return to stillness, who writes a tiny note on a napkin after each throw like a scientist, who has to be gently reminded it's their turn because they've fallen into a story mid-conversation. The names become cues that lead to rituals. When Grandma Thunder flashes, someone always fetches her water. When Lefty Lightning appears, a child claps 3 times because that's how his dad did it once, and now it's law. Older regulars remember the overhead projectors, the erasable markers, the mechanical scorers that clacked like typewriters. They speak about them the way sailors talk about the sea, fondly, with corrective details no one checks. Tonight's screen contains all those ghosts and none of the hassle. It simply displays the democracy of the lane. Your name next to mine, equal in font size, equal in invitation. No algorithm decides who gets featured. Everyone gets a row. If a celebrity walked in, their name would still blink in the same patient rhythm as yours. A few lanes over, there's a group that turns naming into ritual theatre. They compose tiny poems, Faint Star, Early Moon, Soft Strike, Night Pepper. Another lane is an anthology of puns, Livin' on a Spare, Split Ends, Gutturally Fabulous, Spinderella. Even if you don't know them, you smile when their scores update, as if the puns themselves make the pins fall easier. Maybe they do. Names are a kind of gravity here. They pull confidence toward the pocket. You notice how the screen organises silence. After a big shot, there's a pause where the numbers are updated. Just a breath, just enough to let everyone be thrilled. After a miss that meant something, the cursor returns a little slower, as if giving you a second to collect the next version of your face. No one programmed empathy into the machine, but somehow empathy grows around it, the way moss grows on quiet stones. As the frames accumulate, the scoreboard becomes a gallery of small triumphs. A single spare after a string of open frames looks like a sunrise in miniature. A clean sheet of marks glows like a row of lanterns in a fog. Names that began as jokes mature into emblems. You look at Spare Bear, and now think of patience instead of wordplay. Moonshot becomes a way of reminding yourself to aim without fear, to accept the miss without self-scorch. The names teach you to talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a friend, with nicknames, with kindness, with a nudge toward daring. By the 10th frame, the right side of the screen gets generous, expanding boxes to make room for extra throws, as if the night itself is stretching to let you finish the thought. Names hold steady while the numbers race, and you realise you've been reading this board like a constellation map, tracing lines between stars that didn't touch before tonight. There's a last round of beeps, a last flurry of tiny fireworks, and then stillness. Your names remain calm and complete, the way a theatre keeps the set on stage for a moment after the actors have bowed, so you can say goodbye to the room you made together. When the attendant prints the scores, the paper is warm like fresh bread. The names at the top look official and silly in equal measure. You fold the sheet and tuck it into a pocket that will forget it until tomorrow, and future. You will smile at Grandma Thunder 146 and Moonshot 138 inches as if reading a diary entry in code. As you untie your laces and slip back into the world, you look up one more time at the screen. It's empty now, cursor blinking, ready to meet the next versions of everybody. Outside, the night is generous and ordinary. Your real name returns to your mouth with its familiar weight, but it feels slightly altered, rounder at the edges, more forgiving. You carry the echo of your lane name like a charm in your pocket. It doesn't make you someone else. It just makes you more of the person you meant to be when you stepped up to the console, paused, and watched the small lighthouse blink, steady and kind, until you were ready to begin. You find it among the quiet rainbow, a row of glossy planets resting in their cradles, each one humming a slightly different promise. The light from above slides across them like a slow river, and your hand moves without deciding, hovering, testing, listening. Weight is a dialect, and your fingers are fluent tonight. 12 pounds says, "Let me carry you." 14 says, "Let's be serious." 10 winks, "We can be graceful and still be enough." You lift one, feel it tilt your wrist like a polite tug. You set it down and try another, letting your forearm ask the questions your mouth can't phrase. Is this right? Will you meet me halfway? Can I trust you not to argue when it matters? The finger holes are their own conversation. Some are sharp at the edges, like a brand new idea. Some are softened, sanded by years of warm hands and Friday nerves. You test fit after fit, thumb first, then middle and ring, a ritual of small commitments. Too snug feels pushy, too loose feels slippery, like a compliment with no follow-through. You want the kind of fit that never asks to be noticed, the kind that lets your mind forget and your body remember. You turn a green sphere so its drilled constellation lines up with your knuckles. Pretend release once, twice, listening for the click in your head that means yes. Around you, the rack is a quiet neighbourhood of superstitions. Someone always swears by the marbled one with the gold streak. Someone else won't touch anything purple after a bad year. Your personal logic arrives as if you always knew it. Colour matters exactly as much as it has to. You reach for the black one with the small chip near the fingerhole, and it nestles into your palm with the sweetness of a found coin. It's not the lightest, not the heaviest, it's the one that feels like it already knows your name. You roll it onto your forearm and measure the way it rests in the crook of your elbow. The balance tells a story, centre of gravity like a heartbeat, cover stock like a skin, a faint scent of lane oil that lives somewhere between wood and lightning. You let it swing in a gentle pendulum. Back, forward, back. Your shoulder loosens, your breath lengthens, the room sharpens at the edges. Somewhere in the machinery behind the pins, a belt hums. The ball in your hand absorbs that note and returns it steadier. There is a moment you remember from other lanes, other nights, the tiny vow you make to the ball you've chosen. You won't blame it and it won't betray you. You'll keep each other's secrets. If it drifts wide, you'll adjust your feet, not your temper. If you let go too early, it won't take it personally. You smooth your thumb over the chip near the hole, like sealing the pact with a thumbprint. You're mine, you think, knowing it's mostly a spell you cast on yourself and that the best spells are almost always that. A man a lane over polishes his ball with a microfiber cloth, slow circles like he's calming a skittish animal. He nods at you with the quiet respect of two people who understand that choosing is part skill, part myth. A kid tries to lift a ball that's 2 sizes too brave, his dad gently swaps it for something friendlier, and the kid's grin says the world just stepped closer to his size. A woman in a league jacket closes her eyes and tests the finger holes by feel alone, as if touch is a truer judge than sight. The whole rack becomes a chapel of tiny reckonings. You carry your choice to the ball return like you're introducing a friend to a room. It rides the track with a soft purr and settles against the spinner, waiting its turn. You rub your palm across its surface again. The finish is not perfectly smooth. It has the faintest tooth, a whisper of grip your fingers like. The lane lights up in a straight line to the headpin, and you imagine the invisible pattern of oil laid down like a secret map. You've heard talk of patterns: house, sport, shark, cheetah, each one a different set of clues. You don't need the names. Your ball will read it and translate with the patient literacy of objects that were made to do one thing well. First throw with a new yours is a handshake. You stand at your usual spot and shift half a shoe to the left because your gut requests it. You cradle the weight in your non-throwing hand, feel the temperature of the resin, cooler than your skin, warmer than your nerves, and let gravity be your co-author. Back, forward, release. The ball leaves your hand with a soft exhale sound that you always forget and always love. For an instant it looks too calm to change anything. Then it begins to turn its mind toward the pocket, a slow, honest hook that feels earned rather than flashy. It taps the headpin like a polite knock, and the pins fall with that musical clatter that lands right behind your ribs. Not a strike, 8 down, 2 waiting like a friendly quiz, but the way it moved tells you the truth you needed. We're compatible. By the time it returns, warmed by the lane's breath, it already feels more yours. You clean the thin ribbon of oil off with the hem of your shirt, then remember yourself and use a napkin instead, as if manners apply to bold objects. You consider the remaining pins, the stand-up pair on the right, chatting like old friends who stayed late, and you picture the path your ball will take to part their conversation. The second shot is where you learn each other's sense of humour. You adjust your starting spot, change nothing else, and roll. The ball travels straighter this time, as if understanding that this is not a moment for drama. The pins step aside together. The spare symbol on the screen is a modest gift-wrapped box. Relationships need rituals, so you start collecting them. You'll always set this ball down with the chip facing up. You'll wait for the pin setter to finish its little bow before you begin your approach. 2 steps of breath, 1 step of intention, swing. Between frames, you'll rest your palm on the ball like you're keeping it company rather than claiming it. Someone offers you another to try. He swears by the glittery blue one for corner pins, and you smile, nod, and return to yours. You're grateful for advice and newly unwilling to cheat on your superstition. Sometimes your ball misbehaves. It noses into the headpin too eagerly and leaves a split. It slides on a patch of oil like it suddenly remembered skating. You adjust because that's part of the deal. You move your feet a board or two, change your speed by the length of a thought, swing a hair lower. Your ball responds like a friend being asked to whisper in a loud room. Even when it goes astray, you can feel the message in your fingers. Too quick, too soon, too much wrist. It's feedback without judgment, a language you can only hear when you're not scolding yourself. The night deepens and the rack grows lighter as people choose their partners. Every ball left behind looks a little lonely. Every ball in motion looks purposeful. Your fingers sink into the same 3 warm wells again and again, until the fit feels custom, as if your hand and the ball negotiated a treaty and signed it in skin heat. You stop checking the chip. You could find it blind in a power outage. You lift it, and the muscles in your forearm wake with a pleasant ache, the kind that keeps time the way a drummer does, steady, encouraging, ready. There's a tiny theatre that happens at the foul line when the ball leaves your hand. For a blink, you hover between control and surrender, watching a circle you set in motion discover itself. You tip your wrist as if you can guide it with phantom strings. You call quietly to it. Go on, go on. Like a parent at a swimming lesson, palms open and encouraging. When it catches the right edge and turns its shoulder toward the pocket, you feel ridiculous joy. When it slides wide, you nod anyway, because partnership is bigger than one role. A few lanes down, the pro with the tidy bag and custom fit gives a clinic without speaking. Their ball arcs like handwriting you wish you had, curving into the pins with a confidence that makes everyone stand a little straighter. You watch, learn a fraction, and then return to yours, pleased to be in the part of the story where progress is measured in degrees, not miles. Your ball may never sing like theirs, but it hums in your key, and that matters more. Between frames, you set it gently on your thigh, and notice how the light finds micro scratches you hadn't seen. Already it carries tonight's paragraphs in tiny script. The surface tells on you. The one time you clipped the ball return, the frame you wiped it with a paper towel that had lived too close to salt, the roll that kissed a dry patch and flared. You like that it remembers. Objects with good memories help you have better ones. Your friends start calling it by name, not its brand name. You didn't check, or if you did, you forgot. But the nickname they have for yours. Past the Planet, Moonrock, the Diplomat. Someone asks where you found it, and you point vaguely to the rack as if to say it found me. The group begins to tease that you won't touch another ball all night. You shrug. Why would you? This one agrees with your bones. The 10th frame arrives with its extra generosity, and your ball feels suddenly heavier in the best way, like a promise you choose to carry. First throw, smooth, confident, a pocket hit that scatters pins like soft hail. The return machine gives your ball back quickly, as if eager to see what you'll do next. Second throw, you release a little early and it slides, catching only the edge. One pin left, standing at a jaunty angle. You breathe, grin at its stubbornness, and give your ball a small pep talk it does not need, but enjoys hearing. Third throw, you aim for the inside shoulder of the pin and your ball obliges, tapping it just so, sending it tripping into the pit like a bow after a show. The screen throws up a tiny firework, and someone at the table drums a happy rhythm. Your ball sits in your hands as if it knew this ending all along. When it's time to go, you consider just for a second what it would mean to have one of your own. A forever ball with holes that match you like a handshake that fits on the first try. You imagine a name etched in careful letters, a little towel in your bag, the pleasure of choosing before you even arrive. Maybe someday. Tonight, you pat the chip, thank this borrowed companion, and let it ride the return one last time. It disappears down the tunnel with a last soft purr, like a cat slipping into another room to nap. You wipe your hands on your jeans and feel oddly lighter, like you gave the ball something it can keep. A story, a touch, a pattern of heat, and it gave you something back that isn't going to wear off in the parking lot. On the way out, you glance at the rack. The marbled one gleams as if to say next time. The purple one looks less cursed than you claimed. The black one with the chip is already indistinguishable from its siblings, and yet you know you could find it in the dark. Outside, the night air folds around you, cool and kind. Your hand still carries the shape of the holes, a phantom grip that will fade by morning and return next Friday like muscle memory's quiet hello. You curl your fingers once as if lifting that weight again, and realize something simple and perfect. The ball you swore was yours was never really the point. What mattered was the choosing, the listening, the small vow to try with care. The rest, the strikes, the spares, the misses that turn into laughter, rolled out from there, smooth as a lane under good lights, steady as a heart that knows its home. The lights soften then fade, and for a heartbeat the alley holds its breath. A hush ripples across the lanes, the kind of hush that comes before fireworks or the first snow. Then the black lights wake up. White laces blaze. Lane arrows glow like constellations. Even the lint on your shirt rises to the rank of stardust. A slow cheer passes through the room, more felt than heard, and Friday night tips into its favourite version of itself. The music finds a new pulse, still friendly, but bigger around the edges, bass slipping under the floorboards, treble dusting the air like sugar. Somewhere near the counter, a disco ball stirs and sends a weather system of tiny moons skating over faces and hands and the gleam of polished resin. Someone yelps because their teeth are fluorescent. Someone else grins at a stripe of sunscreen they missed 2 summers ago that suddenly shines like a secret code. People become brighter in small ways they didn't plan. Paper cups multiply like good ideas. They fog at the rim and sweat down their sides, printing little wet circles on the plastic tables that will dry into rings and maps. You hold yours and it's perfectly ordinary, thin-ribbed, a lid that never quite clicks, and yet exactly right. Cola tastes cold and brave. Lemon lime tastes like permission. The slush machine hums its hypnotic hum, churning cherry into a sunset you can drink. When you take a pull on the straw, the ice scrapes your tongue and the sugar talks you into one more frame. Under black light, snacks become their own ceremony. Popcorn is brighter than it has any business being. Pretzel salt throws sparks. Nacho cheese becomes an event, glowing softly like a campfire you can dip into. The snack bar crew moves like a practiced band. One shakes fries into a tray, one carves a swirl into soft serve, one calls out order numbers in a voice that somehow threads through the music without breaking it. They are unflappable and a bit heroic, supplying everyone with edible courage at a pace that makes time friendlier. The lanes, now cosmic, seem to stretch farther. The oil catches light in quiet stripes. You can almost read the pattern like a tide chart. The ball return emits a steady purr, and your chosen sphere looks different. Edges sharpened, colour deeper, tiny nicks newly visible like freckles in summer. You wipe a ribbon of oil with a napkin and it fluoresces faintly. A reminder that the lane is alive and you're a guest on it. People loosen, that's the main thing. A grandfather in a team jacket reveals glow bracelets from a pocket and snaps them alive around small wrists, becoming the leader of a blinking parade. A teenager who arrived folded into themselves slowly unfurls, shoelaces shining, laughs suddenly freer, and lands a spare that earns a bow as dramatic as it is sincere. A couple on a first date relaxes into a shared orbit. Blacklight is kind to shyness, making it look like intentional glow. Every lane develops a personality. One becomes a dance floor between throws, tiny shoulder rolls, a sideways step, a victorious twirl that somehow never interferes with the approach. The next lane turns into a game show complete with invented prizes, extra napkin, first sip of someone's slushy, eternal bragging rights until the parking lot. Further down, a quiet group creates its own ritual. After each frame they tap cups. Just a soft clink, a pact to keep it easy. The announcer, if there is one tonight, appears as a benevolent ghost in the speakers. Cosmic special, turkey earns a high five from every lane neighbour within 10 feet. Random frame challenge. Frame 7 is left hand only if you're feeling bold. The voice is teasing, never mean, and the room adopts the rules it likes. Frame 7 arrives. Left hands attempt their gentle chaos, laughter beads along the lanes. A spare achieved left-handed becomes a story that will be retold outside by the cars. Then again next week like it happened to someone famous. Children are promoted to co-captains after dark. They sprint retrieve fallen napkins, enforce invented superstitions. 2 squeaks before every approach, no more, no less, and guard the stash of glow sticks like festival vendors. Bumpers pop up for one lane, and it feels like mercy instead of training wheels. A kid in a dinosaur shirt bowls a ball that takes its own scenic route and somehow kisses the headpin. The entire alley reacts as if a comet just threaded a needle. He accepts the applause with the solemnity of a monarch, then asks for more ketchup. There is a private cinematography to cosmic bowling. Hands appear from the dark, set a ball in motion, and disappear again, leaving the bright arc to tell the story. Faces light as they cross the spill of the projector. High fives bloom as quick flares. When a strike detonates, the pins scatter like white birds and the lane briefly fills with pixel fireworks, a triumph written in 8-bit joy. You watch friends you've known for years and notice new angles to their smiles, new ease in their shoulders, a look that says the week is over and the night owes them nothing but this. Your paper cup becomes a metronome. Between frames you lift it, sip, set it down, chase the rolling's bead of condensation with your finger, and wipe it away with a napkin that has begun to feel like part of your uniform. A stack of cups grows on the end of the table, a leaning tower of decisions you didn't overthink. Someone produces a sleeve of striped bendy straws and distributes them like favours, and every grown-up takes one because sometimes being 11 with a cherry slush is the correct move. The arcade at the edge of the glow peels a few people away and then returns them. Pockets jangly with tickets, eyes pleased. A plastic ring added to someone's fluorescent fingers. Guitar riffs stumble from a game, a pinball machine talks in zaps and bell chimes. Air hockey declares itself a sport. The sounds blend into the bowling like unexpected harmonies, and you notice your approach has synced to the music without asking for permission. Some moments only happen in this light. A bowler hesitates, then taps the ball against their shoe. 1, 2, and it's not a superstition anymore. It's percussion. A gracious miss turns into a choreographed shrug that makes everyone laugh, kindly. A spare that barely happens earns a louder cheer than an easy strike. Difficulty measures the joy, not the math. Someone's shirt declares, "Living on a spare," and the black light blesses the joke. You become briefly convinced the arrows on the approach are a secret language. Line up with the third one. Breathe on the beat drop, release when the tiny mirror of the disco ball lands on the wood near your toes. Of course it's nonsense, and of course it works once, and that's enough to write it into your ritual as if wisdom had been handed down. You realise that this darkness with lights is teaching you to believe in tiny, testable faiths. Change nothing but your pace and watch the outcome. Move aboard and notice, be curious instead of stern. Every so often the automatic scorer lags and the room leans forward together, as if the shared tilt will pull the numbers onto the screen. When they finally blink into place, the relief is collective and silly, and you clink your cup against the nearest cup in gratitude to the machine that saves you from arithmetic. The cursor returns, unbothered, ready to glow next to the name you chose earlier, your alter ego looking especially credible in ultraviolet. The snack bar bell dings again. Someone returns with a paper tray of curly fries large enough to qualify as an undertaking, and it becomes communal by default. A napkin is passed like a treaty. The cheese is carefully navigated to avoid crimes against clothing. The last fry causes a diplomatic incident that resolves in shared victory. 2 people hold it by opposing ends and make a wish. No one remembers the wishes later, only that wishes were made while shoes squeaked, and pins fell and neon napkins fluttered like flags. Cosmic time is forgiving, frames expand and contract. 10 minutes stretch into 30 because laughter puts elbows into the clock. Half an hour collapses into 5 because you were telling a story that required sound effects. You think you're playing a game, but you're actually letting a room tune your nervous system. The black light edits out the inessential. You keep what glows. Near closing, a last song energy arrives. The playlist leans tender. People aim for a final small triumph. A teenager nails a personal best and hides their grin behind their cup in a way that only increases its brightness. A couple stages a mock slow dance in the 5 seconds before the machine resets the pins. Someone orders one more soft serve and hands the first bite to the quietest person at the table without ceremony. The lights consider brightening and then give you one more chorus. When the house lights finally do come up, the world returns in softer focus than you expected. Regular colours, ordinary teeth, shirts that make sense again. Nobody boos. The transition feels like waking in a good way, like a nap that did its job. Cups gather, straws bend into little white flags. Napkins become origami boats that sail briefly on tabletops before being gently sunk into the trash. The staff wipes a long, glowing night into clean, unglowing morning with practice swipes, and leaves an extra stack of cups on the counter for anyone who needs a souvenir. You untie your laces and the squeak lessens. Gravity yawns and sits back down. On the way out, the door glass holds a fading neon reflection of you, still a bit luminous, still carrying the warmth. The parking lot air is cooler and smells like damp asphalt and the cinnamon sugar that somehow escaped someone's pretzel. A kid shakes their glow stick and it flickers bravely against the bigger dark. You tip your empty cup upside down over a trash can and a last drop taps out, a tiny punctuation mark on a paragraph you didn't know you were writing. Driving home, you catch the echo of bass in your chest and realise you're keeping time with your turn signal. Click, click, easy, easy. A red light, you glance at your hands and think you can still see a faint line where the black light turned your knuckles into constellations. Maybe it's imagination. Maybe it's the part of the night that chooses to travel with you. The part that glows without electricity, sustained by memory and the gentle fizz of sugar. You don't need to explain it. You just know you'll feel it again next Friday, when the lights dim, the music swells and someone hands you a paper cup that fits your hand like a permission slip. League night begins with a shuffle of jackets and inside jokes, a low tide of greetings that laps at every ball return. Teams gather like small families that happen to share a uniform and a spreadsheet. Someone spreads a wrinkled roster on the table and taps names with a pen that has scored more seasons than it has ink. The league secretary, clipboard, calm voice, a pocket full of paperclips, moves down the lanes like a conductor taking attendance. Subs? Absences? Any pre-bowls to record? Heads nod. Someone signs a scratchy signature. Someone else digs for dues in a wallet that also houses a punch card from 3 snack bars ago. The ritual is part paperwork, part pledge. Yes, we are here again, ready to turn another ordinary week into story. Warm-up balls are a polite scramble. The house gives you 10 minutes to rediscover physics. Teammates take turns and leave space in the motion like well-rehearsed traffic. Go ahead. No, you. Okay. I'll sneak one. Balls roll. Return roll again. You read the lane like it's a friend's face. Dry spots at the edges, a gloss of oil down the middle, an invisible bend where everything turns honest. Someone tries a line, misses wide. Nods to themselves like they just found a shy current. The captain watches without saying much, noting who found their hook, who needs a quieter tempo. No pep talks yet, just the shared warming of hands, shoulders, nerves. Shirts appear from totes and backpacks, crests and puns and iron-on letters that have survived more spin cycles than seems possible. Frame of mind. Spare necessities. Pincredible. The fonts are brave. The colours are unembarrassed. One team arrives in matching polos that make them look like a touring act. Another wears an inconsistent collection of bowling art that somehow reads as uniform from 2 lanes away. Someone forgot their shirt and slips into a loner that says property of snack bar in a font you can hear. It fits the night better than anything else would have. Positions settle like chairs being pulled up to a table. Led off goes first, steady hands, quick feet, the tone setter. Second is the quiet glue, the one who fixes momentum when it wobbles. Third is the scientist, always calculating the series, saving stray frames like coins in a jar. Anchor goes last. chill eyes, a joke ready for both outcomes, the person who understands that pressure is mostly lighting. There are roles within roles. The encourager who never sits for a teammate's turn. The scout who peeks at adjacent lanes and reports on how far the oil is migrating. The bard who remembers everyone's high game and deploys those numbers like good weather. There are numbers, yes. Averages printed on the recap sheets like reputations. Handicaps that level the ground like fresh snow. "You're getting 42 a game tonight," someone says, and it's news and not news at the same time. The math feels like a kind deity, granting close contests to mismatched rosters and framing every frame as a chance instead of a sentence. You learn to love the way a 1-2-3 can outduel a 2-0-1 when the night decides to tell a certain story. The first frame of the first game belongs to optimism. High fives are crisp. Someone calls all you and means it. A spare in the opening frame earns a cheer bigger than its arithmetic, because filling the first box calms the room. Teams squint at the standing sheet taped to the approach. Last week's work fossilized in 12-point font. We're 3 points out of second. We're tied with the guys who wear the flaming skulls. Position round in 2 weeks. These sentences hang in the air like small weather reports. Everyone nods as if they all check the same forecast at home. Little rivalries lace the night together like stitching. The friendly feud with Lane 17, born 2 seasons ago, when someone accidentally drank someone else's soda and apologised with a nacho. The gentleman's bet with the team in matching polos. Loser buys fries, winner shares anyway. The personal rivalry you have with a single 10-pin that has learned to impersonate a fence post. The league's long memory stores all of it. Who edged whom by 2 pins on a snowy night? Who rolled a 600 for the first time and pretended not to notice? Who tripped over the ball return and turned it into a bow, so smooth it read as choreography? Etiquette is its own grammar. Good shot is said softly on a miss that was well thrown. Nice pickup is for the spare that required geometry and faith. Shake it off is wielded with care, craft paper for a bruise. People step back from the approach as if the wood was sacred ground. They wait for a neighbouring bowler to finish, because courtesy keeps the rhythm clean. Hands are offered for high fives without reaching too far. They're there if you want them, and no one takes it personally if you prefer a nod. Everyone claps for a strike, but the applause is slightly sweeter when it belongs to the bowler with the lowest average, who just found the pocket like a key finely turned. Side games run under the main story like creek water. There's a 50-50 raffle, strips of tickets torn and folded, a small pile of cash that will buy someone's team a round of soft serve. Brackets bloom on napkins. You against the anchor from lane 14 this game, winner advances. 2 frames later, you're both laughing because you forgot you'd entered. The strike pot hangs in the air like a dare. Random frame called by the secretary. A hush, a roll, a room-wide gasp when it happens, and a happy groan when it does not. Mystery doubles gets drawn at the end. 2 names from different teams paired by fate. Their combined games suddenly a partnership that exists only at the moment of announcement. It proves what the league already knows. Everyone is on a team bigger than their team. Captains keep a quiet ledger. They mark filled frames with tiny check marks. Circle strikes for a head count that means nothing and everything. Tally totals in pencil because the night likes erasers. Between games, they collect signatures on the recap like autographs, check that the handicap math matches the league's particular way of counting kindness, and walk their sheet down to the desk like a parent delivering a permission slip on time. The desk attendant stamps it with a date like a good memory. Coaching happens in lowercase. Move a board right, maybe. Softer off your hand. That 7-pin has a crush on you. Ignore it all, and it'll chase you. Good advice arrives wrapped in jokes so it doesn't sound like criticism. The best coaching is noticing. You were early on the last 2. Your slide stuck. Wipe your soul. Drink water. Sometimes coaching is snacks. A granola bar appears beside your scorecard without anyone admitting to it. Someone pushes their fries toward you after a tough split because salt heals almost everything lane-related. Every league has its own law. The night a bowler shot their first 300 and the alley went silent at the last release, a shared held breath so loud it rang, and then the explosion that followed. The time the power flickered during Cosmic, and a strike rode darkness and came out the other side still true. Legends accumulate like patches on a jacket. High game, high series, most improved, never miss a week. The secretary keeps those records in a binder that all of you pretend not to care about while caring immensely. You flip through it occasionally like it contains family photos. Match players scored by points, one for the game, one for total pins, or 3 and 3, depending on the league's original constitution written on a napkin at a long-ago snack bar. This makes every frame a vote. A double in the 8th steals a point the other team assumed was theirs. A clean 10th preserves a total by the length of a breath. Anchors know how to carry the math without letting it carry them. "We need 9 to take it," someone whispers. "Give me 8 and I'll love you anyway," the anchor replies, then rolls 9 and a wink. Kids orbit the edges like good luck charms. They keep score with crayons on their own notebooks, drawing X's and slashes with earnest gravity. They ask to roll a ball between games, 2 hands, bumpers up, triumphs that outrank everyone else's efforts by sheer force of joy. Elder bowlers who have forgotten more about timing than you will ever learn practice alongside you with the efficient economy of people who can hear where the ball will exit the pin deck just from the sound at the arrows. They offer a tip that seems too simple. Hold your finish. You try it, and your next shot behaves. You nod like you discovered it. The second game is where rivalries tighten into warmth. Opposing teams start fetching each other's return balls when they stick. Someone compliments the line you finally found. A spare leaves one stubborn pin, you make a face. The bowler in the next lane mirrors your face back at you and the silliness dissolves the sting. You find yourself rooting for an opponent's clean frame because the night wants both of you to have a good story to take home. Competition narrows the eyes. Camaraderie opens them again. By the third game, snacks have become strategy. Sugar to maintain focus, water to keep hands honest, pretzels shared in quarters that come apart neatly because the universe likes good metaphors. The clerk at the counter knows who needs a refill before they know it themselves. Tabs get started and will be closed with a Sharpie flourish and a promise to square it next week if a wallet doesn't want to cooperate. The snack bar is Switzerland, neutral ground where rivals exchange fry tips and talk about shoes. Stats talk gets louder in the easy way of people doing math out loud for fun. You're on pace for a 550 tonight. One more mark and you'll beat your average by 20. If we take the game and total, we jump into third. It's arithmetic glazed with hope. At the same time, there is a parallel conversation that has nothing to do with numbers. Whose grandmother is out of the hospital, who got a new job, who needs a ride next week, who's bringing cupcakes because a birthday brushed against the calendar. Leagues look like sports from a distance. Up close they look like neighbourhoods. The endgame inside the game is fill rate. Clean frames are gold. The cheer for a 10th frame spare isn't about perfection, it's about finishing well. Anchors live for the need 9 moment the way stage actors live for the line that lands the laugh. When it happens, when the last ball leaves a hand that trusted its practice and trusts the lane, and maybe trusts a tiny sliver of luck, the release feels like a bow that includes everyone. You hear the difference in the pins when it matters. They fall with a crispness the room recognises and answers with applause you can stand in. Totals get added in clusters of heads. Fingers count, recount, spread, fold. Someone jokes that they peaked in 3rd grade arithmetic and everyone pretends it's true. The recap sheet returns to the desk, numbers settling into boxes like birds finding their perches. While the secretary tallies points for the league, teams linger in the pleasant afterglow of having tried. Little rivalries dissolve into promises. Same time next week. We owe you curly fries. Tell your anchor their 10th frame was rude in a good way. Championship talk floats in and out all season. The position round where first plays second and third plays fourth, as if the schedule secretly planned for democracy to be dramatic. The roll-off format nobody understands until the day arrives, at which point everyone is an expert. The trophy that looks surprised to be shiny, the patches that will be ironed on crooked and proudly. People say they don't care and then carefully care. The best teams know that a league is won in ordinary weeks, the second game of a Tuesday when 2 keyframes turned because someone laughed instead of tightened. Not every night is heroic. Sometimes the pocket refuses your invitations, spares pretend to be harder than they are, and averages sink a little like the sun behind a stubborn cloud. On those nights, leagues reveal their real superpower. Someone says, "Rough one, want to roll a practice after?" Someone else says, "Forget it, fries on me," and the captain shrugs and says, "We'll get them when it matters," and somehow you believe it because belief is a team sport too. The standings will list a loss. Your memory will list a kindness. Between seasons, the lane oil pattern changes, the schedule jiggles, teams rearrange, people consider switching squads, flirt with the idea of moving up a division, then remember they like the way this table laughs. New bowlers arrive, shoulders tight, eyes scanning for rules they haven't learned yet. Old hands make space without making a fuss. We take turns. We say good shot a lot. We keep score of the numbers, but we keep better score of the people. That's the rule book. Everything else can be learned with 2 games and a soft pretzel. Some rivalries last longer than leagues. You'll see the Flaming Skulls polos at the grocery store and exchange a solemn nod at the freezer section, as if both of you are contemplating the oil pattern on aisle 9. You'll pass the snack bar hero at the farmer's market and they'll remember your usual without the counter between you. You'll run into the league secretary at a hardware store and feel an unreasonable urge to hand them a recap sheet. The world outside the alley dresses differently, but it's the same people, and the rivalries shrink down into properly sized friendships. Closing time gathers everyone in a soft net. Shoes return to shelves, rosters fold into pockets, trophies stare from a case like shiny witnesses. The standings for the night arrive in a printed list, and someone reads them out like a bedtime story. Applause lands in the right places. Your team packs up slowly, reluctant to let the rhythm go. Plans are made with a looseness that means they'll happen. Practice Wednesday? Drills for corner pins? Rematch with lane 17, fries on the line. You step out into the parking lot and the rivalries fall away like confetti that remembers gravity. What remains is the feeling of belonging to something both serious and silly, measured and merciful. The points mattered while they mattered. Now the people matter more. You can still hear a clean strike in your head if you tilt it just so. You can also hear how many good shots you said to teammates and strangers. That ratio, more than your series, decides the shape of your sleep. Driving home, you think about how teams begin with averages and end with stories. How leagues look like ladders but feel like circles. How little rivalries keep you sharp and little kindnesses keep you coming back. You picture the standings shifting by a point here, a point there, numbers adjusting themselves like chairs around a table to make room for next week's plot. You picture the clipboard ready, the side pots waiting to be won, the shirts hanging like flags in closets across town. And you know, in the ordinary and comforting way that keeps promises easy to keep, that you'll be back, ready to earn and spend another night's worth of cheers. The counter is lit like a little stage where every performance ends in something warm and edible. Behind glass, the snacks wait with patient charisma, pretzels in tidy rows, hot dogs doing slow laps on chrome rails, pizzas wearing a glossy grin. The menu board speaks in the friendly language of comfort, combos, baskets, swirls, and the prices feel like they were set by someone who believes in mercy. The person running this world has a superpower that looks like memory. They know who wants extra salt, who needs the corner slice, who pretends not to like the cherry slush and orders one every single time. There's a bell that dings, a shy, perfect note, and baskets slide forward across wax paper like little boats reaching a bright shore. Steam rises and turns the air into a pocket of weather that smells like childhood got a second chance. A fryer murmurs to itself. An ice machine clatters once and then composes its cool. The soft serve machine purrs, and the person at the handle carves a spiral that looks like a promise. You watch the wrist turn they use at the finish, flick, settle, crown, and feel oddly reassured that expertise is everywhere, even here, especially here. Orders arrive with nicknames instead of numbers. One pretzel poet. Curly fries for the comeback kid. Moonshot, your root beer float is ready. Strangers applaud a good nickname the way they applaud a strike, briefly, sincerely, as if joy were a civic duty. Condiments live in tidy galaxies. Mustard, ketchup, a squeeze bottle of cheese that shouldn't be as good as it is, and yet somehow is. A jar of pickle slices glows like stained glass. Napkins stand in ranks, ready to absolve any decision. The counter hears the town's weather long before the forecast does. Breakups that sounded like thunder in the parking lot arrive here as gentle rain. And the person behind the register knows exactly when to add extra napkins and when to add silence. Celebrations bring their own draft of warm air. Someone got promoted, 2 baskets of fries and a victory swirl. Someone's kid took their first steps, corn dog, chocolate milk, the kind of smile that glows under any light. The snack bar oracle, not their real name, but the one the room gives them, dispenses tiny prophecies disguised as practicalities. Eat something salty, your hands will thank you. The turkey will come exactly when you stop trying to make it arrive. Take water to lane 12, they are pretending they don't need it. Regulars tip with gratitude and lore. Remember when the lights went out and you handed out glow sticks with the curly fries? Remember when you cut a pretzel into 4 perfect quarters because we wanted to feel civilized about it? The oracle remembers everything that matters and forgets everything that doesn't, which is another superpower. When the line gets long, patience gathers like birds on a wire. People pass down straws, pass up cash, borrow $1. Pay it back the next week without needing to be reminded. The counter becomes a commons. Advice swaps places with seasoning salt. Someone learns the trick where you sprinkle sugar on hot fries. Don't laugh, try it. And keeps the trick like a secret handshake. There is a kind of quiet therapy available at the corner of the counter where the napkin dispensers live. Someone leans on an elbow and confesses to the stainless steel, which keeps secrets the way old friends do. I can't hit my spares tonight. My kid's moving away for college. I think I like them more than they like me. The oracle listens while loading a basket. Shake, tap, a drift of salt, a drift of understanding. Answers come back clothed in ordinary sentences. Move your eyes to the inside arrow. Make them a care package before they go tip this. Share the fries. People nod, take their baskets, and walk away stronger by exactly the weight of a pretzel. Between games, teams stage brief banquets at plastic tables. Cups gather in tribes. Dipping sauces align like chess pieces. A glistening row of fry ends becomes a timeline of the night. The one you save for last is always different. Sometimes it's the longest, sometimes it's the weirdly curled one. Sometimes it's the one that looks like a tiny letter you can't read. Someone tears their pretzel into even pieces instead of the usual negotiation of edges, and a hush of gratitude passes over the group that has nothing to do with gluten and everything to do with grace. At some point, the oracle slides a water across the counter before you think to ask. You look like you're about to bowl your heart instead of your ball, they say. Half joke, whole truth. You drink. It helps. A kid appears, eyes barely clearing the counter, and orders, Whatever helps with spares. The oracle issues a swirl cone with sprinkles and a solemn instruction. Bite the first 3 sprinkles, then roll. The child obeys, the spare falls, sprinkles become a system. There is no universe in which this food is fancy. That's not the point. It's fuel with hospitality baked in. It's the way the basket warms your hands. It's the way handing someone the first onion ring becomes an apology accepted without words. It's the way a soda with too much ice and a straw that cracks at the bend can taste exactly like optimism when sipped under neon. The snack bar oracle presides over all of it with the calm of a lighthouse and the timing of a drummer. When the bell dings at closing, they wipe the counter with long, even strokes that flatten the night into a memory you can carry home in your pocket, along with the salt. Some nights, the lanes host small comets that only 2 people can see. They arrive in pairs, orbit unsure, gravity curious. First dates in a bowling alley are like that, bright without being blinding, public enough for nerves to breathe, private enough for courage to visit. Shoes become icebreakers. What size? Same as my patient's, someone jokes, and the attendant smirks, and the date laughs, and just like that, the room shrinks to a manageable size. The scoreboard becomes a chaperone who minds their own business. Names bloom, real ones or playful masks, and the cursor winks approval. The first frame feels like walking into a quiet museum of each other. You both speak softer than the music, not because you must, but because it's pleasant to lean in. Everyone else becomes background choreography, the man polishing his ball, the child clapping for nothing in particular, the team in matching shirts arguing about ketchup like it's politics. Your world is a lane long and 2 chairs wide. There is such relief in having something to do with your hands. You stand, you step, you roll, you return. The conversation nests inside of the rhythm. Where did you grow up? What's your snack bar order? Do you think pins know when they're being dramatic? Answers arrive with smiles that don't need to be held for a camera. You can watch a person bowl and learn a small atlas of them. How they handle a stubborn 7-pin, whether they apologise to a ball return for bumping it, whether they cheer for the lane next door. Shyness finds disguises here that feel like costumes instead of armour. You can fuss with your laces, line up your toes with an arrow, pretend to study the oil like a scholar, all while deciding how to ask what you actually want to know. You can surrender a frame to a story, then finish the story while the pins reset. You can talk about the best movies and worst coffee and what scares you in the gentlest possible fonts. The pins give you time, the machine gives you breaks, the night gives you permission to try on laughter that remembers how. There's a game within the game, choosing the right amount of trying. Go too hard and you can look like a resume. Pretend not to care and you look like a shrug. The sweet spot is the place where you celebrate a spare, like you're celebrating good news that belongs to both of you, and you shrug off a gutter ball with a grin that says you didn't come here for ego maintenance. You give each other little tips that are really little kindnesses. Aim for the inside arrow. Hold your finish. Breathe. A lot of people forget that part. You do as advised, and the ball obeys more often than nerves would predict. The snack bar becomes neutral ground for confessions. You share fries and stories. You learn that they used to play piano until a teacher made it feel like homework, that they once drove cross-country with a friend who's now married with dogs, that they keep a plant alive by talking to it like a colleague. You admit you yell at your laundry sometimes and sing to your coffee mugs. You split a pretzel. The oracle watches you both out of the corner of an eye and slides over 2 extra napkins with the solemnity of a blessing. For the journey, they say, and it's somehow not corny at all. Cosmic lights help. They're a flattery you didn't ask for and didn't realise you wanted until you see the other person's smile glow at the edges. You bowl a strike under ultraviolet and it feels like the room clapped on your behalf. They bowl a spare that makes geometry blush, and you cheer loud enough to be brave without making anyone stare. At some point you invent a handshake for strikes and a different handshake for gutters. Both feel like temporary tattoos you hope won't wash off. Awkwardness visits, because it always does, but here it looks like charm. You release early and the ball drifts wide. They clap anyway and say, "It wanted to see the scenery." They trip over a word and you trip over your shoelace at exactly the same time, and the universe laughs with you and leaves a little space where a story can grow. A song you both like sneaks onto the playlist and the shared "oh" is so unguarded that the lane brightens. There is a special courage in letting someone else keep score for you. You tap their name into the console. They spell yours back. The cursor blinks like a promise you both intend to keep. We will take turns. We will notice each other. We will let the other try. The scoreboard becomes a time-lapse of two people getting comfortable. Early frames are neat and careful. Middle frames loosen. By the 9th, the numbers matter less than the way you lean in to hear each other over the music without the excuse of noise. Some first dates become second dates because of one small moment that would look ordinary to anyone else. Maybe it's the way they handed you the better half of the pretzel without announcing their sacrifice. Maybe it's the way they noticed your elbow tensing and said shake it out at exactly the right second. Maybe it's the way they cheered for a stranger, then turned back to you with that spark that says kindness isn't a performance. Whatever it is, it fits in your pocket and follows you into the parking lot like a lucky coin, and sometimes, right here in the soft roar of Friday, forever quietly begins. It does not call attention to itself. It doesn't need a soundtrack, though one is playing. It looks like two people learning how to stand beside each other while taking turns being brave. It sounds like your turn said with the kind of smile that suggests lifetimes of turns. Years later, someone will tell the story and the details will have smudged into a friendly blur. What song was on, what colour the ball was, which lane number, but the shape will remain true, a shared laugh after a miss, a shared triumph after a spare, the held breath before a strike that felt like a door clicking open. The oracle will remember the night better than you do. You two split a pretzel before you split a check, they'll say, handing over a basket in a future with fewer nerves and more inside jokes. The staff will watch you become regulars who can predict each other's order and each other's line to the pocket. Friends will join you, kids might, seasons will, and the lane will keep your names longer than any scoreboard ever could. Even if you move away, even if the alley changes owners, even if life wraps you in other rituals, you will carry the thrum of this beginning like a heartbeat. You can hear when you're quiet enough. Not every date is destiny. Some end with a kind hug by the shoe rack and the soft honesty of, "This was fun." That's its own kind of win. Bowling offers you a night where effort is visible and kindness has a simple shape. You leave better for having tried in front of someone else. You drive home with the good ache of small bravery and the aftertaste of salt and sugar. The lane lights go dark behind you, but the feeling of being seen under forgiving neon follows you home like the faintest glow on your hands, stubborn and sweet, refusing to fade just yet. The 10th frame always arrives a little taller than the rest, like a doorway with the good wood. You can feel it coming even if you aren't counting. The room seems to lean toward the far end of the lanes. Conversations lower themselves by a notch, and everybody's rituals get sharper at the edges. The cursor on the screen blinks with the patience of a referee who also happens to be your friend. The boxes on your row widen, generous as a closing store owner holding the door an extra minute. If you earn another throw, there's space for it. If you earn 2, well, the lane will wait, and the night will too. Your turn arrives like a small ceremony. You wipe your hand without needing to, line your toes with that trusted arrow, and let the ball rest for a heartbeat in your palm as if to say, "Thank you for getting me this far." There's a practical math to the 10th. Spare buys 1 more, strike buys 2, but the arithmetic never captures the sensation of it. The floor feels more elastic, the wood a touch warmer. Even the distant hum of the pin setter comes through like encouragement. People who have been telling stories for 9 frames fall quiet without being asked. A child at a nearby table instinctively freezes mid-sip. The snack bar bell waits. First release. You don't try to make it perfect. You try to make it honest. The ball leaves your hand with the kind of sound you can only hear when you've done it enough times to stop listening for it. A soft hush. A quiet promise. It glides, then tips, then turns its shoulder toward the pocket in a way that makes hope rearrange itself inside your chest. Sometimes the pocket answers like a friend flinging open a door. Pins explode in a burst of tidy chaos, white sticks cartwheeling, the deck briefly turning into weather. Sometimes there's a stubborn survivor, a single pin standing there with the stubborn charm of a lamppost. Either way, the room exhales with you, and someone says your name the way people say a familiar lyric. If the first throw is a strike, the lane becomes a stage with an encore written into the script. 2 more chances spill out of the right side of the screen like extra pages in a favourite chapter. You can feel the freedom in that. Nothing to lose, everything to add. The second ball often tells the truest story of your night. Perhaps you throw it as loose as laughter, and the pins answer accordingly. Perhaps you place it with care, and the pins nod back with good manners. And if you have the rare night where a third ball joins the song, 2 strikes deep, a hush so thick even the soda fizz pauses, you feel the present tense gather around you like a good coat. You don't think 300, not really. You think this one. You roll it, and no matter what happens, the applause belongs to the courage of the try. If the first throw leaves work, the spare attempt feels like a vow kept. You know the line to the 10 pin or the 7, you've studied their shy shoulders all evening. You move your feet a board or 2, you soften your release and you let the ball travel more like a sentence and less like an exclamation. When the pin tips, it sounds like a door clicking unlocked. The extra ball arrives, you smile at the room's gentle approval, and you send one last roll into the night like a postcard with no return address. Wish you were here. You were. Around you, other 10th frames stack up like closing chords. Anchors produce their easy heroics. We need 8, someone whispers, and 8 appears, tidy and on time. Quiet bowlers deliver loud endings and look adorably surprised about it. A league rival who has been 5 pins ahead all game leaves a split, laughs and shrugs with such good nature that you find yourself clapping harder than you meant to. The scoreboard, lit like a small constellation, fills the last boxes with marks and numbers and tiny fireworks that feel endearingly out of date and perfectly right. Then it happens. The screen goes still. Names remain, warm as porch lights. There's an almost sacred half-minute where no one wants to be first to stand up and declare the spell finished. The machine's hum goes on, of course. Gravity has no respect for ceremony. But the people honour it. You live there for a breath, between the done and the going, savouring the aftertaste of effort. The good ache of trying in public, the way your hands remember the exact weight they've been lifting all night. You unlace your shoes with the reverence of a ritual that worked. Bows loosen, laces make that small cotton sigh, and your everyday shoes slide back on like tools that know your name. The rental pair sits beside you for a moment, still warm, still willing, and you touch a thumb to a scuff you suspect you added, as if to say thank you. Tell the next person to be brave, then you remember the score printout. The attendant tears it from the machine and it arrives in your hands warm and thin and official. Your name looks both silly and important in blocky type. You fold it once, then again, pocket-sized proof that the night happened, that you showed up, that numbers and nerves shook hands. Closing time gathers itself without barking orders. The house lights brighten in degrees, as if they're also reluctant. The cosmic glow lifts, revealing ordinary colours with a friendly, "We're back." People begin a ballet of tidying, cups nested, napkins gathered, a last fry offered to anyone within reach because you can't abandon a survivor. The staff moves with a practiced grace that combines hospitality with gravity, wiping, stacking, nodding, calling out thanks with first names that wear like sweaters. Someone at the counter slides you a paper cup of water without comment, the exact thing you didn't know you needed. Goodbyes bloom lane by lane, they're small and many. A fist bump that lands soft, a hug that isn't a performance. The promise, obvious and heartfelt, to do this again next Friday. Same time, same joke about someone finally beating their personal best. Same vow to figure out that stubborn 7-pin. Rival teams exchange peace offerings, a traded fry, a shared tip about the oil that crept left in the second game. The league's secretary floats by like a friendly ghost and says, "Great shooting tonight," with precisely the tone that means both you scored well and "I like who you are here." The door is lighter on the way out. The parking lot smells like asphalt cooling under stars and something sweet you can't place. Night air lifts the sweat from your neck and turns it into breeze. The neon sign hums a tired lullaby. Cars blink awake in polite sequence. Seatbelts click with the confidence of ordinary magic. For a second you just stand there, listening for the last imaginary roll, the last phantom scatter, the echo of applause that was never recorded and doesn't need to be. You drive home differently than you drove in. The radio sounds kinder, or maybe your head does. Streetlights become spaced out pins you pass without needing to knock anything down. At a red, you unfold the score just to feel its warmth again, even though it's cooled. You remember a frame that went your way, another that didn't, and how both feel like part of the same good story. You think about the stranger who said "nice pickup" and meant it, the friend who slid over half their pretzel, the attendant who remembered your size before you did. The odometer turns a number you will forget, the feeling does not. At home, keys in the dish make a sound suspiciously like two pins agreeing with each other. You pour water, you stretch your fingers, you find a little smear of lane oil on your sleeve and smile at the souvenir. Maybe the score slip lives on the fridge. Maybe the night lives only in your head and your calves. Either way, the lane comes with you. Its hush, its laughter, its friendly geometry of second chances. You don't dream about perfect games so much as you sleep inside the rhythm of approach, release, applause and try again. The metronome of a place that expects your best and forgives the rest. Before the lights finally go out, you think about how the alley, its snack bar wisdom, its cosmic galaxies, its tiny rivalries and paper crowns, has a way of making ordinary people feel like part of a gentle legend. You imagine next Friday in outline, shoes squeaking hello, the ball you'll swear is yours, the scoreboard offering you a name you'll wear like a grin. You don't have to hope it will be there. The hope is already the shape of the thing itself. And if you're still awake, here's your soft landing. Thank you for wandering these lanes with me tonight. If the pins are still clattering in your head, let them settle like snow. Let your shoulders loosen the way the alley taught them to. In the quiet between breaths, picture the 10th frame widening just for you, offering one more easy roll, one more generous chance. When sleep comes, let it be the gentle kind. The kind that feels like a ball gliding true, a small cheer rising, and a door marked next Friday already standing open, warm light spilling under the frame.